For the maker of fine crafts and of art, the journey from concept to completion may take hours, days, or weeks, but it calls on skills and insights developed over not just one lifetime, but the lifetimes of many who came before. The Arkansas Craft Guild, a marketing cooperative devoted to fostering those skills and insights, has had its own journey, spanning 50 years and reflecting the devotion of hundreds of its members and supporters. With the Guild, it all begins and ends with the work, with whatever it takes to express a vision, an idea, an emotion, or a treasured recollection in an endless variety of forms and materials, and with finding, nurturing, and serving the gifted practitioners of all those skills and arts.
Artisans are notoriously independent. We all work alone in our own little studios and have our ways of how we want things done, and working together as the Guild to promote, to market, and just doing some things together is good practice for people who are very independent.
The process of forming the Guild began in Mountain View, Arkansas, where it is still headquartered, in the fall of 1962. Many, but not all, of its founders were craftspeople with the sensibilities of artisans, but their motivation was economic. Stone County, like other nearby areas, was statistically among the poorest in the nation at the time. Ed Luther, one of the early leaders, is clear about the Guild's early goals.
Trying to increase the income of people out in the county that don't have a lot of income. The first thing we had was a craft show put together in the building across the street over where the knives are. Marketing was the main thing if we had a product that was good enough to market. The Extension Service had a special agent by the name of Leo Rainey. It came up here, and there was weavers, and there was potters, and there was wood-working people that made walnut bowls. What they did, they set up this organization, had a board of directors, formed a corporation, formed a cooperative corporation. Everybody had a share, and everybody was the boss.
The pieces of work that were offered to buyers in those early shows largely reflected practical traditions formed during the time when the Ozarks were America's frontier. When someone needed a chair or a quilt, a gate hinge, or a doll for a child, they made it. These days, the treasures that appear in the Guild shop's displays include pieces that closely follow those traditions, but they also include works that are much more contemporary, art for art's sake. Still, artisans like Barbara Carlson, whose creations are clearly modern, draw from the deep well of tradition.
Art quilting takes its base from traditional quilting. It uses the same techniques, but in a new way. And it is evolving and emerging as a wonderful new art form, and gives people who aren't necessarily traditionally based like me, and who have a more contemporary tendency to go ahead into new areas of creating art that's more personal and it is more decorative than some of the traditional patterns used to be.
It don't take much, but you gotta have some. The old ways help, the new ways come. Leave a little extra for the next in line. Gonna need a little water from another time. It don't take much, but you gotta have some. The old ways help, the new ways come. Leave a little extra for the next in line. Gonna need a little water from another time.
Gonna need a little water.
Need a little water. Gonna need a little water from another time.
Joe Doster, a Guild board member, teaches computer-aided design and GIS systems at North Arkansas College in Harrison. He is a woodworker.
You know, the Arkansas Craft Guild is headquartered in Mountain View. At one time we had 5 retail outlets around the state, in Little Rock, Hot Springs, Eureka Springs, and each of those communities had support folks in that community. Key among those were the shopkeepers themselves, and they were kind of the unsung heroes of each of those galleries. And our local folks now are example of that as well. The craftspeople in the various locations would volunteer their time to set up shops and do painting and repairs of the shops. We've always been a volunteer as well as a cooperative marketing organization. And years and years ago I did a survey when I first came onto the board, and I went around and asked folks what the good things were about the Guild, and a consensus was that we were good people, and we had core values, craftsmanship and handwork and genuine, authentic, real people were at the core of who we were, and we still are.
My name is Joellen Rosenquist. I've been a member of the Arkansas Craft Guild since 1983. The Guild has been a major factor in my success as an artist and a silversmith due to its marketing opportunities, both through the shows and the stores. For an artist to have the ability to sell their craft gives them the opportunity to go back to their studio and make more, and to become a better craftsman and a better artist all at the same time. So that has been a very important factor in my success. The Guild also offers the opportunity to share ideas with like-minded people, our successes, our failures, our stories. I've developed very close friendships through the years with people. We've been able to help each other through good and bad times, and we're one big family, just about.
By the mid-70s, the idea of selling traditional crafts and folk art was well established in the region. Guild leaders were dealing with growth, but also with questions about preservation versus marketing and teaching, and what lines, if any, should be drawn between craft and art. Jim Sanders, Guild Executive Director from that time until the mid-80s, worried about balancing all these issues.
They were no longer just making their work. They were teaching kids about employable skills. They were handling all the employer-employee relations, and they were being dissuaded from their work, which was to make these works. And also, you know, while I love the Folk Center and this kind of preservationist kind of approach, it also changed what they did. I mean, Wayman had over 500 basket designs. But because the orders only came for 1 basket in 3 sizes, that's all he passed on. So we don't know the other 498 designs that he had. So even in our interest of trying to preserve something, we preserved one little part of it and we let the rest go. And I think that's a problem. While we think we're doing good work, we're often our own worst enemy.
The art versus craft questions affected choices about what work would meet Guild standards for membership.
I think part of the productive tension has been around class issues. The fact that you've got traditional artists that are worthy of revering every bit as much as the big A arts, that these are people that have time-honored skills and design sensibilities that have been developed over eons, and we should be acknowledging and respecting that as well as the kind of fine arts that get put into galleries and history.
Through the 80s and into the early 90s, the Guild continued expanding in sales sites and in membership. Linda Van Trump served as executive director during that period.
I became executive director in 1987 at the Guild. I had been volunteering a lot and working through the standards committee, and one thing led to another after a director left, and I ended up being the volunteer that wouldn't go away. Next thing I know, I was there full time, and it was at a time when the industry was kind of growing, and we took that opportunity to build on that and try to become a little more professional in our way of doing business, the way we were marketing things. We had 5 retail shops around the state and still had 3 major craft shows we were doing around the state, one in Heber here in Mountain View, and then the Christmas showcase in Little Rock was really at its height during that time too. With the help of the U.S. Department of Agriculture out of Washington, D.C., we did some workshops with the board, did a strategic planning session, and then brought all this together and came up with a handbook of policies for the board to work within, and member guidelines, standards committee guidelines. We actually put it in writing, the qualities of each media that we were hoping to have the members meet within, so that everybody would understand what we were doing and why.
Over these years, the Guild's jury system was formalized, establishing the process in which prospective members submit their work for approval by a standards committee appointed by the Guild board. Mary Lou Kosmeder was among the early members.
Well, we started with more traditional work and objects that people were accustomed to seeing and using in their daily lives. And over time, then, we evolved more toward art. So now we have both, which is just wonderful. And we have practical items that are just simply beautiful. And I think that is just so excellent.
The Guild opened several shops, mostly during the 70s and 80s, each with its indispensable cadre of local members and volunteers. But freestanding locations are hard to maintain with mostly volunteer staff, and the emphasis shifted to statewide membership and a broadened identity, but with a single physical base in Mountain View, and use of an array of media for promotion. New members Malinda and Zack Folkers and Mary Laurie talk about current trends in marketing and in creative approaches. In both areas, it's all about balancing traditional goals and current sensibilities.
But I think that we have to start looking ahead. We have to find out where the markets are going, and we have to understand that in today's world, with a click of a button, you can be shopping all over the universe. There are many craftspeople around the world. What makes Arkansas crafts different? What can we do to position ourselves to attract attention? And I think certainly we have some of the highest quality you'll find anywhere, but we can't miss the opportunities to step out to make sure that we're marketing beyond the tourist traffic that might be coming to Mountain View.
A lot of what we do is starting off with a basic traditional craft of leather work, and whether it be like making a belt or a bag, very simple thing. Belt just needs to hold your pants up, and bag just needs to hold something. So there's the utility of the piece, but then from there we can take it and do whatever we want with it. even if it's directed towards a particular market. If we're going to a cowboy show, then we're going to try to make it look cowboy. If we're going to like the Christmas showcase, it's a little different market there. So we can make the piece as fancy as we want, and it's sort of thing. A lot of times we are thinking about the market, who's going to be looking at it as far as what they'll be interested in. And sometimes we're just doing it because we think that'll look cool, that'll be fun. So starting with a basic craft, and then a lot of times it's sort of like fashion too, where some years some things will be in and some years people won't be into it. So you can build off of the basic craft and change a piece into whatever you think or hope your customer is going to want.
And our goal with the Guild, and what the Guild has told us is their goal, is that exposure through all the medias, like I had stated before. Not sticking with the traditional word of mouth, not sticking with just the local newspaper or the occasional magazine ad, but we have a good crew here that pretty aggressively deals with the electronic media. It's an awesome thing to go online and there's our name, and you can click on our name and it pulls us up, or so many of the other artists, and it doesn't just show what we do, but it shows who we are. And they've made sure to keep, even though we are selling a product, we're also helping to sell ourselves, because the people are buying our story as well as our pieces.
And so, drawn by a wish to connect with the heritage, or with the artisan, or simply drawn by the sheer range of unique potential treasures, people like Mrs. Freddie Luther seek out the Arkansas Craft Guild.
The reason that I come into this shop is that I have granddaughters who love the jewelry. And I also have daughters and daughter-in-laws who love the pottery. And I like Ann Snyder's watercolors. In fact, while I've been here today, I bought one. So there's many reasons to come into this shop. I started out buying years ago baskets. And then I got into Kent Landrum's. I know Kent well, and I have 5 of his paintings that's come through this shop. And then Kent got so well known that I can't afford his paintings anymore. But I do think that those 5 that I've got are valuable now, so I'm quite pleased that I bought them. Always the art, the cut glass I give as shower gifts. Anyway, when you need a shower gift, you can come to this shop and find something you'll like, and that the person that's getting it will like it also.
The Arkansas Craft Guild, with its awareness of the uses of new media and of changing tastes and trends, is far from being an anachronism. In fact, some of the Guild's pioneers have always been among the first to experiment. Joanne Webb.
Well, everything I see that's new, I have to try it. Like I was just telling the ladies that I was going to make some chainmail jewelry. And that is just now beginning to be a popular thing, and it's not difficult to do.
But the past will always be present in the hearts, minds, and skills of its members, just as it has been for the Guild's first 50 years.
Personal reflection.
Kay Thomas led the crafts program at the Ozark Folk Center for nearly 3 decades.
I feel so fortunate to have been where I was in 1973. There were so many people who were coming off of farms throughout this area who I would never be able to put into words the kinds of wonderful values and stories, as well as the tangible arts and crafts they did. Their whole influence, their whole lives that were colored by having grown up with this as a way of life. so many of them did this growing up. Ida Branscombe was spinning, learned it from her mother. You know, there were people, Ross Roper was sharpening plow points, and they didn't go learn it somewhere. It was part of their everyday life. Well, what a wonderful thing to have seen, that whole event, that lifestyle that spawned those kinds of skills, then became transferred as best it could through the craft into other generations, where you can never capture the life entirely that spawned it. You had a part of it in the craft, in the way the craft was made, in the quality, and the fact that they wanted it to last. Some of their values came across into what they made, and I'm just so thankful to have known them. What an opportunity, and I thank the Guild for that opportunity to have known those people and to have watched that transition in the timeline in this country.
Carve me a wish, weave me a dream, spin me a story in wood or in clay. Give it colors and shapes that lived long ago. Make me a memory that starts today. Your eyes see the mystery, your mind knows the wisdom, your hands hold the magic, your heart understands. So paint me a song, fashion a smile, hold it together by weld or by thread. Capture the waves of the winds and the waters. Show me the secrets of all that's been said. Make me a memory that starts today.